We're using your bonus for the family cruise, Dad announced. My $45,000 year-end bonus. I said, "How did you know about that?" Mom laughed. "We read your mail." I smiled, called HR. "Please send all documents to my new address." When they couldn't book the cruise and realized I'd moved, my dad clinked his glass like he was giving a toast. We were not at a wedding. We were at my parents' dining table on a random Thursday night, eating chicken that had been in the oven too long, with the TV muted because my mom couldn't hear herself think. My sister Jenna sat across from me with her husband, Kyle. They were smiling like they already knew the punchline. Dad looked at me and said, "Good news. We're using your bonus for the family cruise." He said it the way you say we're using the Costco coupon, like it was a household decision, like my money lived in the pantry next to the salt. I blinked once, then again, slower. "My what?" I said. Mom laughed, cheerful and light. "Your year-end bonus. The one from your job." "I'm a boxing coach," I said, because my brain needed something factual to hold on to. "I don't get a corporate bonus." Jenna snorted. "Not your gym job. Your other thing." My other thing was a contract I'd signed with a regional athletic program. Performance incentives. Retention bonus. Not glamorous, but it paid like one. "Okay," I said, keeping my voice even. "How did you know about that?" Dad's smile didn't move. "Because it's coming in the mail." Mom lifted her shoulders like she was confessing to buying the wrong brand of pasta. "We read your mail, honey." And there it was. Not even a hint of embarrassment. Not a by accident. Not a "we thought it was ours." Just a casual confession like they'd watered my plants. Kyle leaned forward. "We already talked to a travel agent. It's a family cruise. Caribbean. 8 nights. Balcony cabins." Dad nodded. "Deposits due tomorrow. 8,000. Jenna added. "But don't worry, you're not paying alone. We'll cover the excursions. And Mom's doing travel insurance." I stared at my plate. My hands were flat on my thighs under the table. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. The thing that bothered me wasn't the cruise. It was the certainty. Like my life was a vending machine and they'd already put the coins in. I looked up and smiled. Not a big smile. Just enough to make the moment awkward. "Cool," I said. "Then you won't need me to do anything. Because you already planned it." Dad's eyebrows lifted. "Simon." I held up one finger. "Just 1 second." I stood up, walked to the hallway, and called the HR number I'd saved months ago and never used. When the rep answered, I said, calm as if I was rescheduling a dentist appointment, "Hi, this is Simon Carter. I need all payroll and benefit documents sent to my new address, effective immediately, and I need to update direct deposit." Behind me, I heard Jenna's chair scrape. Mom's voice floated down the hallway, still laughing, like I was doing something silly. "Oh my God, he's being dramatic." I gave the HR rep my new address, because I already had one, and that's when I decided to stop being their safety net. "My name is Simon. I'm 38. I coach boxing for a living. Not the glamorous movie version, the real version. I open the gym at 5:30 a.m. 3 days a week. I wrap hands. I watch footwork. I yell chin down so many times it becomes a personality trait. I also run private sessions for people who want to feel strong again after life has punched them in the mouth. I'm not rich. I'm also not irresponsible. I'm the spreadsheet guy in my world. I don't gamble. I don't treat myself in ways I can't afford. I track my expenses. I pay my taxes. I have an emergency fund that makes my friends call me boring. The only reason anyone in my family thinks I'm wealthy is because I'm the one who doesn't panic. When the fridge dies, I replace it. When a tire blows, I handle it. When someone just needs help for 2 months, I'm the one who says, "Okay, show me the numbers." That started young. My parents weren't monsters. They weren't screaming, breaking things, or throwing me out. They were just comfortable letting me be the responsible one. My dad, Frank, is 64. He worked for years as a warehouse supervisor. He's the kind of guy who knows the price of everything from 1998 and is offended that the world changed. My mom, Linda, is 61. She's warm in public and strategic in private. She can turn a sentence into a favor without raising her voice. My sister Jenna is 34. She's always been the one who needed more. More attention, more flexibility, more forgiveness. In their version of the story, Jenna is the free spirit and I'm the steady one. In mine, Jenna learned early that "I'm overwhelmed" is a magic spell that makes other people pay. I moved out at 19. I lived in terrible apartments. I ate pasta like it was a food group. I trained, coached, and took any work I could: front desk at a gym, youth program, security at events. When I was 26, I got hired by a regional athletic organization to help build a boxing program for teens. I wasn't an executive, but I had a contract. It came with incentives if we hit participation targets and retention targets. That contract is where the $45,000 bonus came from. It wasn't a surprise bonus. It was written into the agreement. The only reason my parents knew about it was because, for a long time, I kept my mailing address as theirs. I told myself it was practical. Their house was stable. My apartments changed. Mail got lost. It was easier to have official documents sent there. And my mom, for years, framed it like she was doing me a favor. "I'll keep it safe," she'd say. "I'll put it on the counter." I never pictured her opening it. Because who does that? I should have known better. There were signs. Little ones. The kind you ignore because naming them out loud would change how you see your family. Like my mom casually mentioning details she shouldn't know. "How's that new insurance plan?" she asked once. I paused. "I didn't tell you I changed plans." She smiled. "Oh, you mentioned it." I didn't. Or my dad asking, "So you're making more now, right?" After I'd negotiated a higher hourly rate for private training. "How would you know that?" I asked. He shrugged. "You're doing well. We can tell." They couldn't tell. They were guessing. But they were also checking. And I kept rationalizing it. Because it's hard to admit your own mother sees your life as a file folder. The first time I noticed the pattern clearly, it was over something stupid. A phone upgrade. Jenna called me on a Tuesday afternoon, crying like she'd been cut off from oxygen. "My phone is dying," she said. "The screen is cracked, it won't hold a charge, and Kyle needs his for work. The kids need me reachable." "I'm coaching," I said. "What do you need?" "I just need to put it on your card," she said quickly. "Just for the payment plan. I'll pay you back. Like $89 a month." I said no. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just, "I can't do that." 2 hours later, my dad called. "What's this I hear about you refusing to help your sister?" he asked. That sentence did something to me. Because it wasn't, "Is she okay?" It was, "You refused." Like my role had been assigned and I'd gone off script. "I didn't refuse to help," I said. "I refused to put a phone on my credit." Dad sighed like I was the unreasonable one. "You're always making things complicated." That was the phrase they used when I asked for boundaries. Complicated. When I asked for clarity, I was cold. When I asked for paperwork, I was distrustful. When I asked for repayment, I was keeping score. But when they needed something, it was always urgent, emotional, and somehow tied to family. Then it escalated into bigger things. A $3,200 temporary loan because Jenna's car needed repairs. A $1,450 payment because her landlord messed up the auto pay. A $600 grocery run because the kids are growing and everything is expensive. Always with a promise. Next month will be better. It never was. And because I'm this spreadsheet guy, I could see the numbers. I knew my parents' mortgage was paid off. I knew my dad had a pension. I knew my mom had savings she bragged about to her friends. But somehow, when Jenna needed something, it was always me. They didn't ask her to budget. They didn't ask her to sell anything. They asked me to cover the gap. My gym clients would joke, "Simon, you're like a therapist with gloves." I'd laugh. But the truth is I was doing emotional labor all day and then coming home to more of it. The thing that wore me down wasn't one big betrayal. It was the drip, drip, drip of entitlement. Like the time my mom hosted a family dinner and introduced me to her friends as our son who helps us with everything. Not our son who coaches young fighters. Not our son who built a program. Just helps. Like I was a tool. Or the time Jenna posted on Facebook about not having support with a photo of her kids and a caption about some people only care about themselves. People commented hearts and "You're so strong." I was this some people. And I knew it because Kyle texted me afterward. "Don't take it personally. She's just venting." Here's what nobody tells you about being the reliable one. Your reliability becomes a resource that people feel entitled to. And once they get used to that, your no sounds like betrayal. I started sleeping badly. 3:12 a.m. became a regular time for me. I'd wake up and my brain would run numbers like a treadmill. If Jenna can't pay rent, will my parents ask me? If my dad's truck breaks, will it be just this once? If I say no, will I be the villain again? My chest would feel tight, like I'd taken a body shot I didn't see coming. I started drinking less coffee, not because I was healthier, but because caffeine plus anxiety is basically a panic smoothie. Then the mail thing got worse. A credit card offer showed up addressed to me. My mom casually said, "I threw that out." I stared at her. "You opened it?" "I didn't open it," she said quickly. It looked like junk." But she knew it was a credit card offer. And she knew because she'd opened it. Then my dad mentioned my contract bonus. Not directly, just a comment. "Good year for you," he said one day, like he was discussing the weather. "That program of yours must be paying off." I froze. "What do you mean?" He waved his hand. "You know, the incentive, the end-of-year thing." He said it wrong, like he'd read it, not heard it from me. That night, I went home and pulled up my USPS Informed Delivery. If you've never used it, it's basically the post office emailing you photos of your mail before it arrives. It's supposed to be convenient. For me, it became evidence. I scrolled back. There were pieces missing, things I never saw. A letter from my bank, a letter from my benefits provider, a letter from the athletic organization. They weren't lost. They were intercepted. I sat on my couch and stared at my phone for a full minute. The thing that bothered me wasn't that they were curious. It was that they felt entitled to know. And worse, entitled to use what they knew. By the time that Thursday dinner happened, the cruise announcement wasn't even shocking anymore. It was the logical next step of a pattern I'd been ignoring. I didn't explode at that dinner. I didn't throw my plate. I didn't yell, "You can't read my mail," even though I wanted to. Because yelling would turn me into the story they already tell about me. The dramatic one. The sensitive one. The selfish one. So I did what I always do. I got precise. The morning after that dinner, at 6:08 a.m., I sat in my car outside the gym with a protein bar I wasn't hungry for and made a list. Change mailing address. Lock down payroll access. Separate finances completely. Document everything. Move. I'd already been saving. Quietly. Not because I was planning to run away, but because I never trusted family support to be real. I found a one-bedroom apartment 15 minutes from my gym. Clean, simple, nothing fancy. $1,675 a month. I paid the deposit on December 3rd, $1,675. I signed the lease on December 5th. Then I set up a P.O. box for official mail. $178 for 6 months. I called my bank and put a note on my account. No one but me. No family verification. No, mom called and said. I changed every password. Email, banking, payroll portal, the app that tracks my coaching schedule. Even my streaming services. If it had a password, it got changed. I froze my credit. I set up 2-factor authentication on everything. Then I contacted HR at the athletic organization and updated my direct deposit to a new account at a different bank. Not because I thought my parents could drain my account. Because I didn't want any paperwork showing up at their house ever again. I also emailed myself a timeline. Dates. Amounts. Who said what? I took screenshots of Jenna's Facebook posts. The ones about no support. I saved Kyle's texts telling me not to take it personally. I downloaded my bank statements for the last 24 months and highlighted transfers with notes like Jenna rent and mom asked. Not for revenge. For clarity. Because if you don't document reality, someone else will rewrite it for you. I also did one more thing that felt small but mattered. I went to the post office and filed an official change of address. Not a casual forward my mail request. A full change that triggers confirmation letters. The kind that makes it very obvious when someone is no longer your mailbox. And I planned the confrontation. Not a screaming match. A calm moment where the facts would do the talking. I wasn't planning to destroy them. I was planning to stop letting them destroy me. They tried to book the cruise on Saturday. I know that because my mom texted me Friday night at 9:14 p.m. Travel agent appointment tomorrow at 11. Be there. Bring ID. No, please. No question mark. Just instructions. I read it while sitting on the floor of my new apartment, eating takeout out of the container because I hadn't unpacked plates yet. I replied with one sentence. I won't be there. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, Simon, don't do this. I didn't answer. At 11:26 the next morning, Dad called. I let it go to voicemail. At 11:29, Jenna called. I let it go to voicemail. At 11:35, Kyle texted. This is embarrassing. They're here. The agent needs the card for the deposit. At 11:41, Mom texted. We can't finalize anything without you. The agent says the deposit has to be paid by the person whose bonus is being used. That line made me laugh out loud in my empty apartment. Because they were treating my bonus like it was already theirs. But the travel agent, some stranger in a blazer, was the first person in the situation who acted like money requires consent. I drove to the travel agency anyway. Not to pay, to end it properly. It was in a strip mall next to a nail salon and a place that sold smoothies with names like Green Goddess. The travel agent, a woman named Marcy, looked relieved when I walked in, like I was the adult who finally showed up. My family looked like I'd walked into court. Dad stood up fast. There he is. Mom forced a smile. Simon, thank God. We were worried. Jenna's eyes were sharp. Are you going to do this or not? Marcy gestured to a chair. Hi, Simon. We just need your authorization for the deposit. Then we can lock in the pricing. Dad said, loud enough for Marcy to hear. We already agreed as a family. I sat down slowly. Marcy, I said, polite. Can I ask a quick question? Who gave you the idea that my bonus was paying for this? Marcy looked uncomfortable. Your mother said you'd be receiving a year-end bonus and you wanted to treat the family. Mom jumped in fast. That's basically true. I nodded. Okay. Then I turned to my parents. The thing that bothered me wasn't the cruise, I said quietly. It was you opening my mail and announcing my money like it was a family fund. Dad scoffed. Oh my God. It was sitting on the counter. Mom leaned forward, voice soft, like she was calming a child. We didn't mean anything by it. We just thought you'd be happy to do something for everyone. Jenna crossed her arms. You always help. What's the difference? There it was again. Always. The word that turns you into a resource. I pulled out my phone and opened an email. Marcy, I said, I'm not authorizing any deposit. Please remove my name from anything related to this booking. Marcy nodded immediately, like she'd been waiting for permission to be professional. Okay. Dad's face reddened. Simon, I held up my hand again. One finger. Calm. I want to be very clear, I said. There is no bonus money available for you to spend. Kyle frowned. What do you mean? It's coming. I looked at him. It was scheduled to, yes. Dad leaned toward me. You can't just. I can't, I said. Because it's mine. Mom's voice went sharp. So you're punishing us now? I shook my head. Not punishment. Boundaries. I turned my phone so they could see the email confirmation from HR. Yesterday, I said, I updated my payroll address and direct deposit. All documents go to my new address, not your house. Mom blinked fast. Your new address? Dad's mouth opened and closed like he was buffering. Jenna's voice rose. You moved? I didn't raise mine. Yes, I said. I moved. Mom's face did that thing where warmth drains out of it. You didn't tell us, she said, like that was the crime. I didn't feel safe telling you, I said. Because you read my mail. Dad slammed his palm lightly on the desk, not hard enough to be violent, just hard enough to perform authority. We are your parents. And I'm an adult, I said. And the post office agrees. Jenna scoffed. You're blowing this up. I leaned back and exhaled. In your version of the story, I said, I'm selfish and dramatic for not paying for a cruise. I looked at each of them. In mine, you opened my mail, planned a vacation with money that wasn't yours, and told everyone it was a done deal. Silence. Marcy cleared her throat gently. I can cancel the hold on the cabins. There will be no booking today. Dad turned to her like she was betraying him too. We already. Marcy cut in, professional and polite. Sir, without authorization from the payer, I can't process the deposit. And that was it. They couldn't book the cruise. Not because I yelled. Not because I made a scene. Because reality has rules. Mom's voice got soft again, but this time it was colder. So what now? I stood up. What now is simple, I said. You don't open my mail anymore. You don't plan my money anymore. And you don't speak about my finances like you have access. Dad's eyes flashed. You think you're better than us. I shook my head. No, I think I'm separate from you. Jenna laughed, bitter. Wow. Okay, so we're just supposed to figure it out. I nodded once. Yes. Then I looked at Mom. You laughed when you said you read my mail? I said. That laugh is why you didn't get a warning. I walked out. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. Where's your new address? We need to know for emergencies. I stared at it for a second. Then I typed. If there's a real emergency, call 911. Otherwise, you don't need it. Not revenge. Just boundaries. The first wave was anger. Dad left me 3 voicemails in one day. The first was loud. The second was guilt. The third was a performance of heartbreak. Mom sent paragraphs about how families share and you've changed and we were proud of you. Jenna posted on Facebook again. This time it was vague enough to be plausible, but obvious enough to sting. Some people will always choose money over family. Protect your peace. Kyle's mom commented a heart. I didn't respond. The second wave was concerned trolling. My aunt called and said, "Your mother says you're not doing well. Are you okay?" I was sitting on my new couch, eating cereal for dinner because I hadn't grocery shopped yet. "I'm fine," I said. She lowered her voice. She said, "You're spiraling." I almost laughed. Here's what manipulative people do when they can't control your choices. They try to control the story about your mental state. I kept everything boring. "I moved," I said. "I updated my address. I'm not paying for a cruise." That's it. My aunt was quiet. "They read your mail?" "Yes," I said. Another pause. Then, softer. "That's not okay." The third wave was bargaining. Mom offered to apologize if that's what you need. Dad offered to forget the cruise if I would just come back to Sunday dinners. Jenna offered to pay me back eventually if I would at least cover the deposit for now so the family doesn't look stupid. That line told me everything. They weren't upset about boundaries. They were upset about optics. They didn't want accountability. They wanted me back in position. And my preparation held, because there were no open doors for them to sneak through anymore. My payroll documents went to my P.O. box. My bonus went to my new account. My credit was frozen. My address wasn't floating around on envelopes in their kitchen. They even tried the travel agent again. Marcy emailed me 2 days later. "Your family asked if they could proceed without you and pay later when your bonus arrives. I informed them they cannot, and that you are not associated with this booking." I replied with one sentence. "Thank you. Please do not share any of my personal details with them." She responded, "Understood." That was the difference between a professional and my own family. A stranger respected my boundaries the first time I set them. My family treated them like an insult. It's been 9 months. The quiet is the best part. My new apartment is small, but it's mine. I have a cheap plant I keep alive out of spite. I put my keys in the same bowl every night. Nobody has an emergency copy. My gym is doing better than it was, mostly because I'm not showing up exhausted from emotional chaos. I used part of my bonus to renovate the training space. New bags, better flooring, a small office where I can actually sit down and do paperwork without hearing my own thoughts echo. I also did something I didn't expect. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand why it took me so long to admit that love without respect isn't love. My parents and sister still tell their version. In their version of the story, I abandoned the family over a vacation. In mine, I separated my life from people who treated my privacy like a suggestion. We talked sometimes, surface level. Holidays are short. Phone calls are polite and timed. I don't share numbers. I don't share dates. I don't share leverage. The thing I learned is painfully simple. If someone laughs when you tell them they crossed a line, they will cross it again. So you stop giving them access. Not revenge, just boundaries. And yeah, sometimes I still wake up at 3:12 a.m. But now, when I do, it's because I'm thinking about tomorrow's training schedule, not because I'm bracing for the next demand. If you've been the family's reliable one, I'm curious what you would have done. I'm on the narrator's side here because his parents admitted, "We read your mail," then announced they were using his $45,000 year-end bonus for an 8-night Caribbean cruise with an $8,000 deposit due the next day. And he calmly called HR to redirect payroll and direct deposit to his new address. What this story teaches us is that privacy breaches plus family planning around your income only stop when access stops. Actionable takeaway number 1. File an official change of address/P.O. box and move all employer/bank mail out of anyone else's hands. Actionable takeaway number 2. Lock down accounts, new passwords, 2FA, credit freeze, and send one clear written message like, "I won't authorize any deposits. Any deposits. Any deposits. Any